Most people don't know this, but there was actually a brief period of time where I had to live in my gym.
Hey guys, Rick Fan here. Welcome to the Fan of Life show. Today we sit down and we talk with one of my dearest friends. His name is Jack Hart. Jack has been all over the world. He's a veteran. He's been an entrepreneur. He is an entrepreneur. He's a fitness coach. He's a fitness competitor. He's a race car driver. He's everything that you can think of under the sun because he is active and he plays hard in the game of life. I hope his story of struggle, triumph, and success inspires you to step out and live life also. Make sure you guys hit subscribe. I want to hear some comments after the show. Do me a favor, stick all the way through because somewhere in the middle, I do have a surprise for some of you ladies out there and maybe some of you guys too. But that being said, welcome to the show. Without further ado, Mr. Jack Hart. Now, I've known you for a long time. I'm going to pretend I don't know you, but I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you something that I've been wanting to know for a long time. I was too scared to ask, and I think most people want to know as well too. So, you're in the safe bubble right now, okay?
No, I won't.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You're Marine?
Yes, Marines.
You build your own cars.
I do.
You race cars. You won a fitness competition last year. You own your own gym.
Yeah.
The big question is, are you Jason Bourne?
I wish. And I wish there was like a magic pill or shot or something like that.
Well, even if you were, you wouldn't tell me anyway, right?
If I did, I'd have to kill you.
All right. But you know, I mean, I've known you for a long time, and one of the cool things about you, Jack, is I really appreciate the fact that you enjoy life. You live life. And as you and I both get older, we have conversations about this all the time, right? It's about, going out there and really participating and playing in the sport of life. And knowing you for so long, I listed all the things you've done. Among that, you've also traveled the world. You've seen cultures. You've experienced different things. So talk to me a little bit about that. Is that something that you've always been interested in as far as like adventure type or has that grown over time?
Yeah, I definitely know it's grown over time. Growing up in southern Louisiana, outside of New Orleans, I think it was, we always did stuff as a family, and I had a great family unit and a lot of support, and I came from a good family, but we didn't do wild traveling and doing all the fun things we did was we would travel as a family to like a national forest or something like that. But I didn't know much about other cultures. I didn't do any international traveling, anything serious, until I was into my mid-20s or late 20s, early 30s.
Okay. And
I've really fallen in love with it. Actually, I think a big part of it was, joining the Marine Corps and meeting other people from a lot of other cultures. Also, I studied at Nichols State University in Thibodaux, Louisiana. They refer to that as Harvard on the Bayou. I don't know why it's just called that. And we did a study abroad, and I went national. And it's funny because I don't speak any other languages. Like I got out of high school without much of any additional language education. I said, hey, I really want to go study abroad. And I went to the international department and spoke with the professor over there. He said, what do you speak? I said, well, my English is pretty good. So he said, well, we only have one place you could go, and that was Finland. So I actually went to Finland for a semester and studied specifically cross-cultural communications and international business. So it really enlightened me as far as like how big of a world it really was. I met a lot of great, amazing international students who I still think about these guys all the time. We had a great semester. It was one of the fondest memories I have from college, and it really opened my eyes to the world being much bigger than you think it is. It can be as small as you want it to be.
Sure.
But I really want to live that life. Like I want as many great experiences as possible, because that to me is true wealth. Like the opportunity to go places and do things is important, but like opening your mind to that kind of thing and just being open to the world.
Now, knowing your background, just for the audience, you come from, your dad was a doctor, and most of your siblings are in the medical field, right? And you kind of took the entrepreneurial route. And I know that fitness has always been something that you were really big on. You joined the Marines, you were active, and then, you went into the entrepreneurial world. What made you decide on doing that? Because with that, there's come risk. There's no, the reality is in life, there's no safety blankets, right? But in terms of being an entrepreneur, I think that's, at least for the first few years, I'm sure you felt like you jumped out of a plane without a parachute, right? So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I guess originally growing up, I joined my first gym when I was 9 years old. My mom actually took me to the gym. I was the youngest person in the building.
Jeez, okay.
And somehow, some way, my mom was able to get me in. And when that happened, I fell in love with that kind of environment. I was looking at all the fitness magazines, and I love, creating a nice physique. So that was probably always in the back of my head. I was like, ooh, I could do this one day. I would love, even when I was 9, I'd love to own my own gym one day. So it was always there. And yeah, I feel like I had an entrepreneurial spirit in me early on. Like even in college, I tried doing a little bit of side hustle here or there. Big thing is being open to and not being too hard on yourself when you make mistakes. I always say that the best mistakes I ever learned from were typically the most expensive mistakes I ever made. You don't hit home runs every single time. You have to put in work. You have to do your due diligence. You have to be educated on what you're going to be doing. And even after that, there's still an inherent amount of risk in that. So to be an entrepreneur is a struggle, and it's not a safe route. I happen to have made a lot of really good choices and gotten really lucky in
Right.
a lot of, surrounded myself by with a lot of great people, people like you who also share that entrepreneurial spirit and are educated and motivated and working hard to make themselves better every day. So I guess in that direction was when I decided to become an entrepreneur and invest everything. The only reason money at all to be able to open up my business was because I was in the Marine Corps. I was in college, so I was reserves. And then 9/11 happened, and we got activated, and we went to Iraq. So we went to war. During that time, when you're gone, we're making good money and we're not spending it, right? So we're in a wartime situation. It's not a tremendous amount of money, but it's something.
Sure.
When I came home from that is when I made those good choices. So like when everybody else came home, they bought new cars. They spent their on crazy vacations. They bought a bunch of new clothes. Like they had all this money that was just sitting there. And instead of making good choices with that, they just kind of blew it. Now, it's not everybody. I mean, and obviously everybody's on their own path, right? So
Sure.
I know most of those people since then have made phenomenal choices and are in great places. But in that moment, that's when I decided that I was more worried about my future and the things that I wanted to accomplish. So sacrifice has been a cornerstone for a long time. I actually, being a veteran and coming back from war, we had VA loans, and I bought myself a house. And I was like the only person in college who owned their own home, and I had 3 roommates, and I was basically living for free.
Good
and
for
I was
you.
And saving my money, and and then Hurricane Katrina hit, and then I was about to graduate college. My house was unscathed, and the home value started to rise. So by the time I graduated college, I actually sold my home, made some money, and then used a lot of that towards opening my gym. I had to borrow a couple $100,000 and come up with about $100,000 on my own in order to do this. So
Yeah.
it's not one of those things that was an overnight thing. It was a decade of preparation in order to finally get in a position where it happened for me. So, I mean, it was a lot of work, no doubt.
And I talk to a lot of people that are successful in their own business, multiple businesses, what have you. And the thing that people always do is they tend to notice only when success is achieved, right? Or at least whatever their perception of success is. So when they start seeing the cars, the houses, the trips, and all that stuff, they say, oh, okay, that was probably the result of entrepreneurship, being your own boss, owning a business, which it is. But they always skip to that version of entrepreneurship. They don't think about the 10 years leading up to it, or even the planning before, like you mentioned. So pull back the curtain a little bit for me. Tell me, if you don't mind, share some of your probably lowest points or most challenging points being your own boss or being someone that runs their own business.
Well, I'm sure you remember some of this because you were a big part of helping me a lot back then. So it was 13 years ago, so that would be March of 2008. Now, I think it was November or December of 2007 when I signed a lease, and by the time we did a build out and all this other stuff, I knew that there was some financial instability in the moments, and they were talking about real estate and pricing and crashes, and other stuff, but to have a full-fledged recession, I was not prepared for that. So, you start a gym, you have a couple of employees, you have this and that, and you have a lot of expense. I had to open my gym myself, run it myself. And even then, when the recession hit, I almost lost everything a few times. But my persistence, I just kept pushing through. Most people don't know this. Because you were there for this. But there was actually a brief period of time where I had to live in my gym. It's funny because I would walk out, like I would sleep under my desk. The lights are out, but there's still so much light coming in. I'd have to sleep under my desk just to get a little bit of darkness. I could not afford rent anywhere else. And the only other thought was, hey, maybe I can go get another job somewhere else. But the reality is that I had invested a lot of money on my own and committed to a lot of money, and finally had reached a point at which I was like opening a gym, like my lifelong. I'm a little too stubborn sometimes to kind of let that go. So I just dug in, and you're eating ramen noodle, and you're not going out, not driving anywhere. You don't have to drive, and you're doing all the work yourself. So it was a bit of a struggle. In fact, I think it was your wife who came to you and said, I think Jack's living in his gym. And then, because this is a decade ago.
Yeah.
And then you actually called me up and said, hey, man, are you doing okay? A very emotional time for me. It was hard to receive any kind of handout or any kind of help. But the reality is when you surround yourself with the right people, help, you should take help when it comes your way. Obviously, it does all this stuff. Surround yourself with good-hearted, like-minded people. So I came and stayed with you for what I think was just a few months until I kind of got back on track. It still took a long time. We finally got to break even, but even at break even, we're not making a killing. And then I genuinely believe it was 3 or 4 years before I felt even a little bit of comfort in the fact that I had spent all my money and put everything I had into this business. I worked hard, I pushed through, and in the end, I made it. So now, after 13 years, I live in a decent home. I like to travel. I like to race cars. I like to build cars. I enjoy life, and it's really not about the things. It's more about the experiences, like pushing through. I think the process of becoming a better person certainly helps me to keep on track and keep doing more and more and more.
So during all that time, going back to this, because I want to move on to your fitness journey as well too. During that time, obviously anxiety is high, fear is high. You're figuring out, well, how do I pay the bills, keep the lights on, and maybe if I can, put some food in my stomach, right? What kept you going? Because most people will pull the plug. And to be honest with you, most people, if they pull the plug, society probably won't blame them. So what kept you going?
Well, I'm not sure if it was just the way that I was raised and work ethic and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm also kind of stubborn sometimes, but I also knew in my heart, this is all I ever wanted to do. And it was literally my only opportunity to do it. And the likelihood of getting another opportunity to do the same thing. I love to help people. I love to to be in the gym. I mean, that's how I can help, right? So educated on fitness, people struggle with their health. They struggle with obesity. They struggle with all these different things in relation to health and fitness. And I've become a bit of an expert, right? So that's how I'm able to give back. It also happens to be how I make a living. Sure. So I'm equally rewarded in such a way that I'm able to do something that I genuinely love, but I also get to get a paycheck at the end of the day. So I knew in those moments that if I quit, it was leaving everything here in Las Vegas, moving back to Louisiana. There's a point at which you just gotta put your head down and go to work. And giving up is always an option, but for me in the moment, it just wasn't. So
for you, it sounded like you burned the boats. You heard that saying?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, there's no going back. There is do or die.
Right. Well, good for you, man. So obviously, people are listening to this. They're seeing a real life journey, real life struggle to get to where you are now, at a point where you feel comfortable, feel that you achieved some milestones, some major goals in your business. Now, on the flip side of that as well, in your personal life, your fitness, ironically, had some ups and downs as well, too, right? It wasn't like, hey, I own a gym. I come out of the Marine Corps. I'm in great shape. I own a gym. I'm Mr. Universe, and I can run, 10 miles every day of my life. You've had some setbacks in your fitness journey as well, too, right?
No doubt. I mean, growing up in the South, we, most of us, I say the South, but I mean, I think a lot of people have a unhealthy relationship with food. I know that I do. So for me, but going towards your question, growing up in the South, we deep fried everything and rolled it in sugar. When food's set down in front of you and it tastes good, you're going to eat it. And it is hard, genuinely hard for me to make good choices. But I remember in high school stepping onto a scale and being damn near 300 pounds. I would justify all the things that I was doing. Like I was lifting heavy, trying to get strong. So I
right.
Toast, butter and honey on it because I wanted to carb up. And I'm
right.
No, it's just delicious is what it is.
Yeah. But for people that are not in the industry, we hide behind the term dirty bulking. Remember that term? Yeah. But dirty bulking shouldn't be 20 years worth, but go ahead.
And that's funny because I use that term a lot, and most people do that. It's all about finding the balance in your life that you need to do for yourself. For me, I did find that when I was leaner and healthier, my business thrived. Now, for a few reasons. One, when I'm eating the right foods and I'm active and I'm fitter and I'm moving, I don't feel like I feel when I'm sedentary. Life's usually about balance. So if you're all on one side, things don't go well. I love food. I love alcohol. I love going out for drinks. I like long nights out partying and having a good time. But there's the balance of I'm going to put in the work. Everybody waits till January 1st, right? I didn't wait till January 1st. I waited the day after Christmas. So it was January 26th. I started my girlfriend did it with me for this time for as well. Because, we went through COVID. We gained a bunch of weight. Sure. We're not healthy. We were thick. We were drinking our feelings and eating our feelings, and we weren't ourselves. So when the time came, I said, I would like to do another show. So the day after Christmas, we started dieting, and I was 225 pounds. This morning I weighed in at 201. So I'm down about 24 pounds. And I'm probably about 6% body fat right now.
Yeah.
I basically gave myself 12 weeks to get ready for this competition, and it's a men's physique competition. So it's called Classic Physique. And now I'm 3 weeks out from the show, and yes, I'm tired. And yes, I want to cave, and yes, I want to eat everything. But I like the challenge, and I like things that help with accountability.
And I'm gonna extrapolate a little bit on what you said about your routine and commitment to this process. You're doing a 12-week cycle, so that includes a specific fitness routine, workout routine, and very heavy into strict dieting, right? And 12 weeks, 3 months, what have you, it's short enough where you can have laser focus, but it's long enough where you actually do see drastic transformation as you're already describing. And I may or may not post a picture of your progress on this video. We'll see. It might up my viewership, so I actually will do it.
Yeah.
But my point to that is you take that and you apply that to anywhere else in life. I think some of the mistakes people make is they have this grand scheme, a grand vision of what they want to achieve and do, and they don't chunk it down. I'm horrible at looking at things big picture, long term for an extended period of time. If you were to ask me, what is it that you want to do in the next 5 years, I can give it to you, but I'm not going to be able to hone in on that for 5 years straight. So for me, it's little increments of 3 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks of activity, of laser focus, that when you stack over time is going to get you there. So I think what you said there was really key, and I don't want people to overlook that. You want to achieve results and you want to see changes in your life, whether it's business, fitness, what have you. You've got to set those increment timelines that you can really laser focus in on your activity, right? So let me bounce on that a little bit. Let me ask you this. Where you're at now, obviously you and I are very similar in age, right? And we get to a point in our lives, like I said, our eyes kind of change to the world a little bit. I think I came across a picture of us about 10 years ago when we were bros. I think we're past the bros phase now. So some wisdom comes with that. If you had an opportunity to talk to yourself, in your 20s with the wisdom that you have now.
That is a great question. And that's going to be hard to answer. I kind of feel like I have to touch on when you ask me that, one of the very first things that comes to mind is my development as my core person. Who do you want to be when you grow up, and what does it take to get there? Growing up in the 80s and 90s, we looked at men as being Rambo and Schwarzenegger and manly men who have no emotions and we're just cold and calculating and moving, right? I never allowed myself to kind of have those deeper emotional feelings, right? So I was always a good person, but I guess I never allowed myself to feel some of the things I'm allowing myself to feel now. So I don't know why the first thing that comes to mind. I think that kind of helps you to sympathize and empathize with other people.
Yeah.
I think that if you can't do that, if you can't put yourself in someone else's position and understand where they're coming from, you certainly can't be in the business that I'm in. Mm-hmm. So just be supportive of other people has been really, really rewarding for me, because I'm a cornerstone in my gym, to where we have a great community. People come to me all the time and they need help. And I feel rewarded, even if I've never gotten another cent from them, to help them move through the process of becoming a better person through health, through fitness, to creating, a better mental image of themselves. A lot of people just can't do that. And I guess that's why it kind of comes back to the empathy, sympathy stuff. Like, if you're always just looking at the one little thing that they're saying here, and you can't dig deeper into it, it kind of hinders you in your ability to.
And I wonder sometimes too, because I do believe that, and I feel that too. My empathy has grown as I gotten older, because I think you can teach that to a certain degree, but it's one of those things where you have to live life, because you have to go. I mean, let's be honest, you got to go through some shit, in order to relate, right? And those are the things that empower you to empower others as well too. So I'm glad you said that. It actually took me off guard. I thought you were going to say something about finance or whatever, but I think that's more powerful. So good for you, and I appreciate that. So you're a Marine, you're an entrepreneur, you're a fitness enthusiast, a coach. I want you to bring those three worlds together. And as we wrap up, if you can, whatever the central lesson between those three things that you've learned, can you give to the audience and pass along?
It's always worth it.
We forget. In the trenches, we forget. It's always worth it, man. Well, I thank you, brother. Like I said, we can talk for hours. And for the audience, part of the deal in Jack spending his free time and talking to me is tomorrow we're going to hit the gym. So I may record our session. You're going to kick my ass. I know it, but it's good. Enjoy the pain. Enjoy the pain. But I love you, brother. I appreciate you. I respect you. We're going to do this again. Thank you for sharing, little tidbits of your story. I think there's more to come. Hopefully people get something from this where they can actually feel good and propel them to step out of their comfort zone a little bit. So for that, I thank you, brother. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll check back in afterwards. All right?
See you at the gym.
Man. Love you.
I want pizza! I can't move.